Hello and welcome to Powerpreneur Show. This is Mansi and McCoy, and we are the co-founders of Healthpreneur Institute, where we run our Powerpreneur Show, where we talk about different things when it comes to entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah,
And at the same time, we also interview really amazing entrepreneurs out there that have gone from pretty much nothing to a lot of, I would say, name and credit in the market. So today we're just going to talk about some simple things that will really make a lot of us understand what entrepreneurship is about.
sure. So with that being said, I want to just ask the first question, why not, right? So think back to your earliest entrepreneurial idea or journey. When did you first know that you were an entrepreneur, or what was the first action you took that led you into entrepreneurship?
Honestly, for me, when I was little, during summer, I would create a lot of artwork and just sell it. And that's where it started for me. What about you?
So in high school, for example, my senior year, I was in 8 different organizations from Beta Club to I was the battalion commander in JROTC. I played volleyball. I was on the modeling team. I did like so many different things. And that was because I always had so many ideas and I was able to start something and finish it and just bring new ideas, innovation, really to the different organizations. And really, my high school, all of my high school journey really led me into entrepreneurship because I was kind of the jack of all trades. I mean, they say jack of all trades, master of none, but I literally became like the master of everything. I was just that diverse and eclectic. But yeah, just really high school and just all the things that I did really led me into that.
Yeah, honestly, I think we have it in ourselves from from a young age, and then it gets dried up, especially when we have to go through life and
Mm-hmm.
schooling. And I remember I used to do a lot of artwork and sell it, right, during summer camps and festive, like the different festivals. And I would also make like sandwiches, sell those and stuff like that. Like I did a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors when I was little. But then I remember it was about 11th grade when my mom's like, oh, okay, you don't have time for this artwork and all that anymore. This is just hobbies. You need to focus on studying, education, degrees. So, starting from 11th grade to finishing my Farm D, really, there was nothing other than studying. And I feel like a lot of my endeavors got dried up. Like, I didn't have
I
any
agree with
creative.
that. Yeah, so in other words, just conditioning from society, from life, from you got to be realistic and you have to understand that you're going to have bills to pay and you're going to want to start a family, and therefore less of creativity and more of just hustle culture, right? We have things to do. You don't have time to think about the arts and music and being free and being in flow. So I certainly can attest to that and agree with that. As I was coming up as well, mom would say, you want to be a doctor or a lawyer and you got to do this and stay on top of your books, and you're not going to be a volleyball player all of your life. Eventually your body's going to not perform like it's performing now. And so I definitely get how that conditioning really changed me and sit me in one path where now I'm trying to pivot and be more in that creative space that we were as children.
Absolutely.
So
And
let's pivot then for a second here. So
sure.
all those things that you learned, becoming an entrepreneur and tapping into really your creative side, let's kind of talk about some of the traits that you developed that helped you to become the powerpreneur that you are today, right? So let's kind of just talk about some different traits. So I'll shoot the first one off here. Confident communication, right? It's one thing to communicate, but are you communicating effectively? What is the tone associated with your communication? So I've come across bosses, I've come across leaders. I've come across people who bark orders and it's my way or the highway, right? But then again, I've seen leaders who really embody, teamwork, and I respect your ideas and you are just as much a part of this organization as me, the leader, right? So I think communication is an important trait, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's really easy to, I would say, kind of get misguided if someone's being bossy or being a leader. So you have to be careful as a leader if you want to really grow as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is leadership.
Absolutely. So let's shoot out another trait here, observation skills, right? So there's constantly opportunities, right? But just because it's an opportunity, it does not mean it's a best fit for you. It does not mean you're going to succeed at it, right? So being able to observe and realize these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, these are the details that are laid out before me. Is there any additional research I can look into that will help me to uncover any additional possibilities? So I think observation is a very another important trait, right?
Yeah, and I would say observing it and then absorbing the information.
Wow. Yes, you're absolutely right. Just like I can hear you or I can actually listen to you. That is a very great note. Absolutely.
Because a lot
Okay.
of people are just zombies and just looking at things, but I'm like, okay, did you learn something from it?
Right.
And it happened with us. We asked someone, and they were just point blank after a whole day of being in some conference with us, right? So
Yeah.
things like that.
Like,
We're like, did you absorb anything from your observation?
yeah, even in pharmacy school, I remember going through our standardized clients. For those of you who don't know, like that's where we have like fake clients to help us to counsel, educate, talk to them about their medications, different things like that. I remember being in the standardized client, and they would literally in school they taught us to make sure that we have our clients teach back the information we taught them, and that essentially is along the lines of what you're saying, making sure that they actually absorbed and listened to the things that we had given to them as their one of their healthcare professionals on their team, right?
Yeah, we were asked to ask open-ended questions. Otherwise, we would just get a yes or no, and we
Yeah.
would never know if they really absorbed it. So, yeah, that's great. And I think we can move on to the next one now.
Okay, sure. Open-mindedness, right? So if we are closed-minded and we're thinking, that cannot be done, that's impossible. There's not that there, these companies already exist. There's no niche in our market for that. If you're not open-minded, you're essentially stagnant. There's no room for growth. There's no room for just to make any change in particular. It's really the reason behind why there's taxis, Uber, and Lyft. One random example. They all essentially serve the same population, but they all have found a different way to differentiate themselves. So, with being open minded, you could say, yeah, these things exist in the market, but how can I be different? How can I offer some sort of concierge service where I do more hand holding than the other business or other business in the market, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you really perceive that there is saturation already, there is no business for you. But
Mm-hmm.
saturation is just in your mind, not
That's right.
in the marketplace.
Yeah, it's definitely a mindset shift that needs to happen, especially if you are considering entrepreneurship. Even when I like communicate with certain family and friends, I've realized that as I speak about some of these opportunities I have going on, some of them are like, "Really? You're able to do that? Well, how did you get that?" Instead of asking more questions about how can I better myself or propel myself towards the things that I want, leveraging the strategies that you used, right? I think there's a different way to
Because
be open minded.
most people are skeptics about what other people can do, and they underestimate. So, like, we go through that a lot. So being open-minded is not optional. Let's be honest, as an entrepreneur.
Hmm. Okay,
Otherwise, you
so
run out of business.
okay. So let's talk about another trait then. The capacity to work in a team. So,
Team
gosh,
player.
when I was a kid, I remember like even like being in school, and they would always give us like team assignments, and I used to I abhorred working in a team because I was such a perfectionist. I knew I could get it done. I knew I could get it done right. I knew I didn't have to worry about wasting time. And most of the time, I was stuck in groups where some of my peers didn't want to do the work or didn't care, and so
Oh my
I
god.
did not like being at somebody else's mercy. And that was a conditioning that I had to change as I got older. But, I took those responses from, just being in school and how I was never put in good groups, to the point where I wanted to be more independent. But now that I've been in my entrepreneur journey for a few number of years now, it's like the value of a team is just so important, don't you think?
Hmm. Yeah. Honestly, I've always loved working in teams, and I've been great, like really fortunate to find great teams. But you're right. I know what you mean, and that happens sometimes. I think it's always going to be someone doing more work than others, and we just have to accept that, and then really work with them to outwork them. That way they can even like start working better. So it just depends on, as a leader, again, what you bring out in others. And I think it takes time. It takes time. Like, teens, they go through, there's this phases that they go through, right? there is uh there is this commotion phase where there is, uh fine tuning on getting to know each other, and then there is calm phase after that, where people start understanding how to work with each other. Then there's growth. So we have to get past those phases, and of course, not all team members always are ready to work through that, and that's the challenge to find.
And another way to kind of combat some of those things, I think is there's a lot of power in delegating and delegating appropriately, outsourcing. So yes, the capacity that we have as a human being, and even as we grow older, that sort of kind of decreases, right? So building a team that can sustain, that can be duplicated, that can grow, right? So delegating tasks according to other strengths, instead of just giving, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. Maybe talk to your team members or people you want to have on board your team and say, hey, what are you good at? Talk to me. What do you like? What are your passions? That passion is a whole another trait we should jump into next, right? Let's do that. So yeah, having some passion that allows people to enjoy what they're doing. They want to do it. Being an entrepreneur, we do suffer some difficult days, right?
Oh yeah, some
It's
or
not
many.
just a walk in the park.
Some or many.
There's some
It
days
just
there's
depends
some
on the
days I
year.
was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I think we all go through it, but as long as we know that we are serving our purpose and we're on the path to our true calling, that's what really matters. And that's what's really helped me, because I just know my true calling is to make this world a better place. And if whatever I'm doing is aligned with that, am I leaving someone better than what I met them as? I'm good. Like, that's what I'm gonna keep doing.
And you know what? You bring up a good point. Basically, inspiration. You inspire people to walk into their passions, walk into the things that they enjoy, their interests. I've seen you do it. We've done it together, um, and I think that's an awesome trait that you have as a leader as well. In addition to many others, but you have that capacity to actually inspire, and not with your words, but by your actions as well.
I think that's what a leader needs to do, is not just say what to do, but show how it's done.
Hmm. Okay,
And
let's talk about another trait then. Some self-discipline, right? So it's
whew,
important to lead.
very.
It's important to be consistent. It's important to follow your plans and your goals and meet the deadlines that you set. Um, Even if somebody's not a part of your direct team, you are still being watched. People are still watching the way you move, the things you do. even as a doctor, right? We have our patients and our clients, and we can say, hey, make sure you're exercising at least 3 times a week for minimum of 30 minutes of those days, right? But
Right.
if I'm not actually exercising myself, who's going to listen to me, really listen to me, right? It's important that we have that self-discipline and lead by example, right?
Absolutely. I feel that that is one of the really important traits that makes or breaks you, because discipline and consistency goes hand in hand, right? And you have to be disciplined to stay consistent. Let's be
Mm-hmm.
honest. So discipline being one of the most, I feel like they all are really important. There's no way we can create, like, this is like the recipe to create an
Yeah.
entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right?
Well, let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about another trait then. I could talk about so many different traits, but another one is strategy, having some sort of a strategic approach. So, a lot of times people think I need all my ducks in a row. I need to have a full drawn out business plan. That does not necessarily mean that's the only way to have some sort of a strategy or a strategic approach. So, I had a recent encounter with another entrepreneur who was interested in my business plan, and they wanted to see it written out, and for this idea that I have. And I was communicating, well, I don't have it written out. I can definitely talk about the mission statement and the values that I have with this idea. And he was just kind of like, no, you need a business plan written out, drawn out. And I was just thinking like, yeah, no, it doesn't have to be one way. There's multiple ways to get to an idea.
Well,
Eventually
do you
you want to
think,
write it out, sure.
I know, but
Go
do you
ahead.
think like people who started their businesses in their garage had business plans?
Sure did not. When you look back at Steve Jobs, Wozniak, the creators of some of the
Bezos.
biggest organizations, they were college dropouts. Some of them were high school dropouts. They didn't even have, they probably didn't even know what a business plan was at the time when they started, some of their
It's
entrepreneur
just
endeavors. So,
idea,
yeah.
discipline, and consistency.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, even for people that are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, no, you don't have to have a lot of money. No, you don't have to have everything written out or drawn out. It's just important to understand yourself, and it's important to network. It's important to delegate when you can, because as much as we want to do it all, being more realistic, we can't do it all. And it's also important to have some sort of a mindset shift. We have been conditioned to think that the sky is the limit. The sky is not even the limit. For me, the sky is just the beginning. So,
Yeah, I
honing
like that.
in on some of those things and realizing that if that person is not an entrepreneur themselves, if they haven't been there, done that, are they the best person to give you advice as far as the idea that you have, this business you want to start, this new product you want to create, right?
Right. It happens so often in our business, right? That people are like, oh no, I don't like this concept. And I was like, okay, have you ever been in business and made $100,000? Then, like, in profit, then let's talk. Because if you've never done it and people are taking advice from people who've never done it, you are never going to get anywhere. That's why having
I
coaches that are successful in what
Yeah.
they're pitching you also. Like, I see a lot of coaches that are pitching things that they've never done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's go through two more traits for me, and then we'll have you shoot some questions. How about that?
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
the one trait that I think is very much important is basically having some sort of a commitment to lifelong learning. So we have our doctorates, right? We understand that even though we are doctors, we are still students for the rest of our lives. That is the same concept that should be applied to
Every
entrepreneurship.
day. Every day.
Exactly. Exactly. Every day I learn something new, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to learn and grow. And I think that that's something to be mindful um, as any for anybody that wants to jump into entrepreneurship. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. Like I dedicate at least an hour every day to reading or some sort of new certification or just, like, or even we get on classes with our coach. We have, like, coaches have coaches too, and they have
Yeah,
to grow constantly. Don't hire a coach that doesn't have a coach.
I think you probably should repeat that because a lot of people think I see this one big name coach and this coach thinks that they got it all together. But no, everybody is still on their own learning journey. And it's important. Not only do we do coaching, we have a coach and she has a coach. And, it just goes right up the ladder, right?
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
what's the last one?
I think that my last trait is just some sort of business acumen. So, I didn't grow up in some fancy household where I learned etiquette, how to eat properly, and all those different things. But it's important to realize your weaknesses and your strengths so that you can enhance both. You can still strengthen your strengths, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I make it a point to, for example, I remember when I had my very first business dinner. I didn't I we were at a fancy restaurant years ago, and I realized, there's multiple forks and multiple spoons. I don't know which one to use. I had going back to one of the other traits I said earlier. I was observant, and I watched them pick up the specific spoon for the specific dish, the specific fork for the specific dish, where they put their napkin. They cut one bite at a time, laid the knife down, and only ate one bite at a time. Whereas at home, I eat, and we
Right.
don't think about that. It's time to eat. You just eat. But I'm so thankful for some of these traits that we talked about that has enabled me to propel myself forward and learn on the go. Right, lifelong learning. Right, and having some sort of business acumen. There's so many ways that all these things just really are connected and tied together. Um, but
How you
yeah, just
conduct
paying
yourself
attention to that stuff.
in these meetings is the key to getting a client. And
Hmm.
I just had a meeting where it was a client that was supposed to look into documents I sent, but before that I got the confirmation that I'll be able to work with them, and that's because of how confidently you conduct yourself, how consistent you've been with them. They know you're this. There's so many things that people are looking at before hiring you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, again, I could elaborate on even more traits, but um, I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head with a few points here as far as some of the traits that are important to entrepreneurship, right?
Absolutely. And aren't you surprised that these things are not talked about anywhere? Like, was your MBA talking about all these things, or like, how did you figure out?
It was really trial and error. A lot of people say, I failed at this, but I don't fail at anything. And that's not to sound cocky. So let me explain. Um,
Right.
there's always lessons and opportunities where you don't necessarily succeed. When you don't succeed, that does not necessarily mean it's a failure, at least according to my definition. So I always try to take out some sort of a lesson from some area that I didn't succeed in. And, that is an important quality that has led me to become the entrepreneur that I am today. And so even when I decided to add my MBA to my doctorate degree, I had this assumption that that was going to teach me how to be an entrepreneur, but it didn't. MBA really is more so how to climb up the corporate ladder, um, and so I was really trying to get more of that application sense where these are some of the things you need to take away to start your own ideas, to have some innovation, to take your ideas and execute it. I think that's a good way to put it right there. But no, my MBA didn't give me what I thought I should have gotten for entrepreneurship, but it's not called a master in entrepreneurship. It's called a master in business administration. But I think, and that's a whole other point where we think something is supposed to be one way when, in fact, when you don't do your research or look into something, you could be you could be placed in a different thought pattern that is not actually the case.
Right. So would you agree that all the commercial courses out there are not about entrepreneurship? It's about corporate ladder. And
Uh,
that's why we had to create something unique, which is Healthpreneur Institute, because that's where an entrepreneur can thrive.
Absolutely. Back into the example with Uber, Lyft, and taxis, right? Sure, they all serve in a way the same market, but they found a way to differentiate themselves. And I think that what you and I have created, we found a way to serve a population, but differentiate ourselves in a way that is giving value at more of an optimal level than some of the standard courses or institutions out there.
Absolutely. So that's what I wanted to really close out our call today with is think, what you really want out of your life. Think about it, write it down. Like if you want to climb the corporate ladder, yeah, go for an MBA. But if you really want to be an entrepreneur, there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and you need to pick out right people to work with. That's what I'll end it at.
I certainly agree with that. And just for me to have some kind of closing thoughts as well, all of your ducks does not have to be in a row. Um, two ducks, okay, that's enough to run with. Everything starts with an idea, and we don't always have to know the how. Long as you know the what, that is good enough to embark on your journey. And there are people out there that can help you get to where you want to get to. It's important to have that open mind and realize I know what I want, and that's good enough. Let's go. Let's go take some risk because there's no such thing as a failure if I am keen to understand that there's always lessons that I can take forward and start fresh, but not from the bottom, but with experience when with the next go round.
Absolutely. Such a powerful thought there. So, Powerpreneur, if you're listening to this, you are one and reach out. We would love to have a chat. And if you're looking to ignite that fire that you've lost and your creative juices have not been flowing, we are here to help you out. We've helped a lot of people and we can help you.
You guys go out and have a powerful week.
Thank you.